Hello, I'm RoPixel. If you don't know who I am, I'm the guy who made Austin, the game you're looking at right now. And today I'm going to be doing a dev playthrough of the game. Quick warning, first time using a mic, so going to sound a bit rough, completely unscripted, and this will spoil all of Austin. If you haven't played Austin before, go do it. I recommend it. It's free on itch.io, and it's a general fun game. I mean, of course, I start on game dev. And I'm just going to kind of play through the game, talk about levels and stuff, and how I made them, how the game changed, and just hopefully have a fun time. So, yeah, let's get started. I can delete you. Let's start. Feel like an Austin game. So, first, a little interesting bit of fact. This intro cutscene wasn't planned to be the only one like it. There was planned to be another an outro cutscene at the end of the game, which was only in the same style depending on how many pips you grabbed, but that got scrapped because I forgot to do that, and it just kind of changed. Now this first level, Pip Town, this one had a few changes here and there in all fairness. Firstly, we plan to actually run across the rooftops of the level, obviously, instead of just like, the streets below, but that got changed because I couldn't think of a way to draw the roof tiles pretty well, and I didn't want like bottomless pits in my first level. This level was definitely the one that's the most redesigns out the bunch because, making a first level is pretty hard. Like, the tutorial level is definitely the hardest level to make, as you have to like make sure that all the new players actually know where to go and stuff, obviously, just to kind of skim through the text. But yeah, I think this one turned out pretty well at the end, in all fairness. Yep, we're just going to see if Vulcan can get away. And on to Grass Grove. I'll probably be either like talking a lot or just like not at all. Sorry. Kind of bad at this stuff. So anyway, this level didn't change that much throughout development, like at all really. Except for the fact that I was going to try and make it like rain at first, but kind of scrap that and stuff. Also, I'm going to talk about many of the enemies because they're not really that important and stuff. Well, they are important, but stuff like nothing really to say about them because they really just like didn't change it at all that much. Oh yeah, I'm going to quickly bring this up about the art of the game. So I did everything myself on Austin. I think it's kind of a bit obvious, but if it isn't, sorry, but now it is. So I made all the art myself. I think it's alright. I just feel like maybe with like sharper graphics it would look a bit better, but I do quite like it. And here's a tank. Okay, grab this pit. Oh yeah, I'm also going to bring this up now. Some main inspirations for the game were things like Mario, Sonic and Rayman, so, that kind of stuff. Anyway, just going to kind of skip through them. I'm not really going to watch all the cutscenes or go through 100%. I know some people wouldn't mind that, but it's just the case of just the main game, I think, because it's got like the most interesting content in it, and plus, in my opinion, most of the side and bonus content isn't really that interesting in my opinion as like the main game is. Anyway, let's just kind of get through here. If you do want a video on like that kind of content, then let me know in the comments, and I will do it on like the bonus levels and stuff. Now this level is actually quite interesting, as this level didn't actually exist until like later on in development, as originally there was no race levels in Austin and you were going to fight Vulcan Jr. in the Fifth World. Yeah. No, kind of cool, right? But that got cut because, well, some levels later on in the game were just a bit rubbish, in my opinion, without like gimmicks and all felt too repeaty. So I was like, hey, let's go put these race levels in as like a brand new kind of like gameplay formula. But my original plan, they wouldn't be introduced until like World 3 or so, which was a big problem for me personally, as it just felt like they would, after a while, just, well, you would be introduced them to a bit too late, and since Vulcan Jr. would have to be a racing rival, it basically meant you wouldn't meet until like halfway through the game, which is a bit weird. He's like one of the most important characters, so that kind of got changed, the plan did, and it led to this level being where it made when it was placed where it was placed, and that. So yeah, it is quite a good level though, probably my favourite in World 1, but aside from the long history, aside from that, nothing really changed. Also, going to bring up another point, most level designs were like made on the first go, and then I liked them enough to keep them how they were, as they had a consistent flow to them, and I quite liked that in the game, in all fairness. I think it worked really well with the game. Anyway, let's get back on topic. I'm just going to go to the shop quickly, not to buy anything yet because I don't have enough cash, but few other interesting things. Firstly, this was actually scrapped, like the well, somewhat scrapped talk option you just saw on screen. You can actually talk to Dean originally, instead of just like have it pop up beforehand. You could actually just like talk to Dean, and there'd be a lot more dialogue. But that got cut. Another thing that got cut was the boss rush. There was planned to be a boss rush where you do like all 6 bosses back to back, but I thought it'd be too hard, so I kind of cut it. And lastly, Dean was planned to be playable in the game, and you could play as him. The main reason he got scrapped was because I didn't have unique enough movement ideas at the time for Dean, and on top of that, the first level I could play him in would be in like East Pip County, which is World 4, and it just felt way too late to kind of like do anything really cool with the character, and just like kind of get annoying with the player it would. Now this level's an interesting one, Hunter's Forest. So firstly, this level was planned to be autumn themed originally, it was, but the leaves on the ground kind of made it look a bit like lava and stuff, and the world mapping which was already drawn up at the time, I was like, I'm not going to go back and try and like draw an autumn forest because it might look a bit too lavary, so it's got changed to a normal forest. And the other few changes here, firstly, go get that in a sec. Sean, the rabbit with a gun, who you're about to see in a minute if you haven't played the game before or know what was coming, that guy on screen there. He was actually not in Austin originally. He was an idea for a character I had, and I was like, yeah, he's pretty cool. But then I was just like, he might be a bit too annoying, like playable wise, and like some players might dislike his playstyle. But so at first he was like scrapped, and I was like, this level was like going really rough, and I was like, yeah, we need something unique here. So I grabbed Sean and just like kind of like coded him in, and I'm glad I did because I think his levels are pretty good, and they're definitely not the best parts of the game, but they're definitely a nice and unique break from Austin, and he's a unique enough character to keep the gameplay interesting for the levels he's in, which I think works pretty well. Just to try and do my best job to not die. Also, another little fun fact, the moving platforms that you see all over the level, or like this part of the level, was actually planned to be put in the Austin sections and have like more use. The main reason they were scrapped though was because they were kind of, well, I couldn't really code them properly, so like when you stand on them, like they move without you going, obviously. So I made the level design like a lot more based around dodging them instead of using them, which I think is a unique way of doing it. But I do think it definitely does disorient new players, and it definitely does make this a bit of a difficulty spike, I'd argue. It's not too bad, but it's definitely not like, you know, easy or anything, which I don't mind. But it definitely has like kind of led to some players' deaths and stuff. Anyway, back on track. I do wish I made Sean be able to kill enemies whilst he was sliding. That'd be quite nice, it would be, in my opinion. Like, as it would make a lot of the levels like a lot easier with him instead of just like having to like stop and kind of go, which does make him unique from Austin, but does make him more like annoying than Austin. Anyway, now it is time for us to go. Sorry, just to my eyes. Time for us to go fight Bruce. So, just gonna kind of skip through dialogue. So originally you planned to fight Ian here in like the tank from Grass Grove, and he actually would have like, you know, been like the kind of like what's the word, like boss of World 1, I suppose you could say. The reason Bruce wasn't here at first was because in earlier ideas of the game I didn't actually have the B team till like a bit later on in the game, and originally we were just gonna like fight all the Dragon Generals, but it was just like I wanted more unique bosses, so I was just like, one day I decided to go draw some kind of like, you know, new characters like potentially, and it led to the creation of the B team, and from there the rest is history. The B team got added into the game, and yeah. Only thing to comment on the B team as a group in general is that Bree is my favourite out of all of them, and they're originally going to be called the Dragon Busters, not the B team, but that got changed because all their names like begin with B, so it's like, you know, oh, they're the B team because, you know, they've all got B in their name. Anyway, I enjoy the animations, and let's get going again. Now let's just move down here. So next level, Desert Dunes. So this level has a very interesting development history compared to like most of the other levels in the game, as it had the most reworks outside the tutorial, I'd say. So firstly, this level was originally planned to use sandstorms, sorry I got my words mixed up there, and you wouldn't have had like any of this like desert kind of mineshaft stuff. The entire level would just been like built around these sandstorms. But I thought a little bit annoying how like this game's like built around a fast platforming character and you can't really see where you're going. So I was like, oh, that kind of sucks. So I thought, well, I'm gonna try and reward the gimmick. Then I remembered the Donkey Kong Country minecart sections, and I'm like, oh, what if you put a gun on the minecart? And that's how this entire level got made, along with like this kind of like cool bit of the level where you're like in a desert mineshaft. Probably one of my favourite themes. I wish I used it a little bit more. I think this is the worst main game level, not the worst level in Austin in general, as I think, in my opinion, I'd say like Pip Sewers, one of the bonus levels, is definitely the worst. This level is definitely the worst main game one, but it's a desert level, so I'll have to forgive myself a little bit, I guess, because in my opinion, I just kind of like hate desert levels in video games, and this one definitely does feel like a bit of a parody on desert levels. Kind of the entire point of Austin, I guess you could argue, is a bit of a parody on like Mario, I suppose you could say. But yeah, I do like this section. I also don't know why, but I have a weird like kind of like thing with my characters, like just like, yeah, let's give them a gun. That makes them more unique. I don't know why, but I think it's just kind of a bit funny, I'd argue. Just like, hey, let's go give these characters guns. No idea why, but anyway, beat this level. I think another reason this level is that there's like no dialogue in this level, which kind of sucks. I think Austin's biggest strength is its dialogue, in my opinion, or one of its biggest strengths is the dialogue. And by having there be like no dialogue, it just kind of makes it a bit worse, I'd argue, than just most of the normal stuff. It kind of makes it a bit worse, in my opinion, because otherwise no dialogue. And Austin's good with dialogue. Now it's time for Ralph. Excuse me. So this boss fight had very little change throughout, in my opinion. As like the only thing that got scrapped was that there was planned to be a second phase which Ralph was going to go and have like a platform he would stand on the ceiling, and then he'd like shoot down. You'd have to shoot bombs back at him, but that got scrapped because I couldn't really think of a good way to make it work. And it was like just like buggy, making the fight actually hard to kind of play through and beat. So I scrapped that. Then for the next part of the fight, the part you don't see now, the final part, the bullet patterns have to be reworked a lot. As like they're just some that are just flat unfair and too hard to dodge because Austin doesn't really have like a way of crouching. And I think how he worked it definitely made it easier, but it made it too easy for where it's placed in the game and kind of make Ralph probably the easiest boss. And I think, in my opinion, like the worst boss in the game, although some people might say a later boss, Violet, is worse. I also think it doesn't help that Ralph has no real character to him, so it just kind of makes him more forgettable overall. Plus the fact that the Bruce appearance here is probably like one of his more funnier ones, I'd argue, than Ralph, so it does make him forgettable. Pip Express, right. This level has a unique history and where it was placed. It was always planned to be like after Ralph, but originally it was planned to be an Iced Island level, as you know. You just beat Ralph and Pip Desert, so now you can go straight on to like next world. But Pip Desert is a ridiculously short world, and if I didn't have this level in Pip Desert, it would be like ridiculously short, and like there doesn't need one redeeming level in it as well, I'd argue. And this level definitely does fix that issue, but I think this world definitely relies way too much on the Pip Express to actually be like a really good level than like most other worlds, because like most other worlds at least have like one or two really good levels or like really good moments in levels. Whilst this world kind of like just like relies on the Pip Express to like entirely stand up, in my opinion. Not a bad world, but definitely the weakest world, and I want to keep bouncing on that spring. Then let's keep working. Well, nearly done this level. Something I'm going to say right now, but I wish they did something with speed boosts as well. Like if you entered them, like whether you entered them, it would boost you that way instead of like being one way or the other. But I think having them one way or the other definitely makes them a lot more unique compared to most kind of like speed boosting things, that allows them to be like used as much of a hazard point as well in like later levels to kind of like throw players off and stuff like that. I'm gonna put down my controller here because fun little fact, I'm a terrible programmer, and the way I programmed this section or like made it is like you gotta dodge bombs. But here's the thing, you're given enough cups of coffee consistently to actually just stay where you are the entire time, and you will survive and be completely fine for this section. So you have no reason to like try and jump or dodge breeze bombs, which does kind of suck a little bit, as this is probably one of my favourite sections in the entire game. But yeah, it does kind of suck. If I was to ever like make another fast speed section, I would definitely fix that. I would, because like it just kind of sucks. But anyway, aside from that, I think that's quite a good level, and now we go straight on to the next one. As much as we say this game like sucks at points, it's just me kind of like being rubbish on myself, as Austin is a good game at the end of the day. It's just that I'm a bit hard on myself when it kind of comes to this, is like, oh, I think this could be done better and stuff, because like, you know, you learn more as you do in game development. But even if I do say this game has like points where like I think it sucks personally, I do generally mean that this game is still really good. Anyway, time for the next level, Slippery Slide. So this is probably the weakest race level of the bunch, and this level was one of the ones that got changed into being a race level. Its original gimmick was going to be like you had to melt ice and then like, you know, melt the ice blocks and you can keep progressing throughout the level, and then like you'd be consistently attacked by this one enemy that got scrapped. His name was Jet John. He actually could like throw things down at you from the sky, but he'd always like follow you, and you couldn't really kill him unless like he slammed into a wall or something. So it's basically like a Lakitu style enemy, but much more annoying. So I scrapped that because it's just like, nah, this isn't fun to really deal with, and it's just gonna like be more annoying. And there's only a few levels where I can actually put him in, so he got scrapped. And then after a while, this level just all kind of collapsed, and then Slippery Slide just kind of became another race level. Its original name wasn't also Slippery Slide, as originally it was called Iced Island. I don't know why I did that, because that's the name of the world, but again, I think I did that just because it's like, oh, it sounds like a cool level name, but like the entire world's called Iced Island, so it doesn't really make much sense for me to like call this level just like Iced Island. I think a bit like how like Sonic and Knuckles has like the Angel Island zone, I'd say. And now we time to fall down the pit. And on to the next level. Sorry, I'm just quickly cracking my fist. Sorry, I've didn't need to do that. And let's get back to it with Water Globe. This level really didn't have much change in all fairness. Like, I don't think this level was originally in my original plans either, if I'm remembering correctly. I believe it wasn't in my original plans at all, like Water Globe, as the original plan for the level was just to be like some kind of like ice cavern level, where you would have like fought Violet in it, but that got scrapped. And like, I don't know where the idea of Water Globe came from, but I think one day I was just like, yeah, I've got a cool name for a level, it's going to be called Water Globe. I have no idea, and still have no idea of what on earth like Water Globe is meant to be. I think like my theory was just like, oh, it's just kind of like sewage water treatment plants, and that's like fishing center, but I have no clue what on earth this level is like meant to kind of like, you know, be like, aside from just be like the game's water level, which I think definitely does work quite well. It's based off of Hydrocity Zone, or Hydro City as I like to call it. I thought I'd set both races to annoy both sides of the argument, and in my opinion, this level definitely, like, you can tell it definitely is based off of that, thanks to like, you know, orange brickwork and stuff. But yeah, also, I don't know if I've mentioned the inspirations, but inspirations for this game are like, you know, Mario, Sonic, and Rayman, and Anton Blast actually played a big part in this game's development, and like kind of like inspiring some of the later levels in the game, along with most of the music and the plot. As the plot of Evil Castle Design Monthly, I actually kind of like thought over a little bit after like hearing like Satan's plot from Anton Blast. Bit quick spoilers. Main villain in the game, Satan, wants to become the reddest thing in the land, so I was like, oh, that's kind of a funny villain plot. I'm like, I wonder how I can do that. And for like Vulcan, I thought like Evil Castle Design Monthly would be something he would definitely compete in, and quite funny in my opinion. Anyway, gonna skip the orange pit because of how long he takes to get. Another little fun fact I want to bring up about this level is that this is definitely the best level to actually go get pip coins on, as if you come here with the money doubler item, which is unlocked right after this level, you can actually like go get like 600-ish pip coins like with a money doubler. If you're not doing it, if you're doing it without a money doubler, then you can still get like 300 or so. So it's very good to like grind money, which is very helpful when you get near the end of the game, like trying to, you know, 100% it, like, you know, trying to go, oh, I'm going to get all the money, so I'm going to get all the money. Like, you know, get all the money you need to like go buy the items. Otherwise, I said to get all the money, but I think I meant in my head kind of came out differently there. Sorry. Anyway, another fun little fact about this level. The ending cutscene with Vulcan. So this was originally planned to play at the end of the world. It was like after the Bentley fight, but like before, like, you know, you enter World 4. But I moved it here because I didn't want Water Globe having the same issue of Desert Dunes, where like barely any cutscenes throughout. And also planned to be another Vulcan like section like after Pip Express there was, as the B team would have go like front Vulcan going, "Hey dude, we just got to like Ice Island, Austin's still following us," and then Vulcan would be like, "What? How's he here? How's he doing this? I thought something would have got him, like some kind of video game design element would have got him." So yeah, you see how that went. Anyway, back to this. I kind of like the joke about the lives in the 80s thing, that's quite funny. Anyway, Snowboard Hill. So, this level wasn't obviously had Sean in it, but fun little fact of the day that I'm going to bring up here, or fun little fact of the, like, I don't know, next minute or so, I suppose, is that originally this level was actually just planned to be like the entire, like, have like the snowboarding like section throughout entirely, like just like you'd be like snowboarding the entire way through the level. That's where the snowboard is kind of like one of the better developed, like kind of like, you know, side things, as it was always originally planned to be like just for this level you'd like be on a snowboard the entire time chasing down Ralph, Ian, and I believe Violet at that point, because you like probably would have beaten her, like, you know about her, I believe. I'm not sure if you, I think you would have fought her again. Yeah, you would have thought, sorry, I don't know why I've just contradicted myself, said that earlier on, that you would have fought Violet in, like, where Water Globe was originally placed. And then, like, you know, you'd have gone from, like, that point on, obviously. And, like, chased after, like, all three of them, like, a bunch of enemies trying to stop you the entire way through. You'd be, like, slowing up and speeding up and, like, slowing down, going past all a bunch of different hazards throughout the entire level. But, again, that plan got changed, like, added Sean's like, oh, I'll just use a snowboard level, like Industrial Heights as... No, not Industrial Heights, Mechanical Mountain, sorry about that. So yeah, Mechanical Mountain originally had a snowboard section near the end of it, where, like, with the Mecha Dragon chase bit, you were actually planned to get kind of chased through, what's the word, like, on the snowboard, away from the Mecha Dragon, but I was just like, where would you get the snowboard from? There's no real reason where the snowboard would come from, so it just came like another running section. And he died there. Yeah, you may have just saw like about like a few seconds ago about like the half platform thing, not half platform, crumbling platforms. They were coded very badly. They should have had like half platform physics, but at the time, like, I didn't really think that through. And like you can get yourself stuck in there. It wasn't a big issue because like some pits you would just be dead if you fell down anyway, but some other pits there's definitely like a room of saving that just wouldn't be able to be done, like unless you had like the extra health, which just kind of makes them a bit unfair in my opinion. There's a few other examples of times when you probably should be able to dodge and live stuff in Austin, but it's not too bad of an issue. It only just like shows up in this level these like kind of like crumbling platforms do. Anyway, nearly done this part. Like I said, you can see me slowing down, speeding up and jumping, like I said, on the snowboard, and they're definitely the most developed gimmick in the entire game. I wish I used it more, but I can't really think of levels to put it in, and like it was just like, all these later levels have got like a lot going on already, so it was like, you know, I didn't really have time to place it. Anyway, time for Bentley. Probably one of my favourite boss battles. Like, it's definitely my second favourite one, probably because it's like one of the more unique ones, as it's like the one with the health bar, which I think both Bentley and Vulcan, since they both have health bars, it makes them a lot more of a unique boss than compared to, like, say, the rest of them, as you've actually, you know, like, got to get, like, the boss fight goes on longer, you've actually got to think about how to deal damage to them. And since you are playing as, like, Sean instead of Austin for this one, it makes it a lot more unique, plus the fact that all Bentley's attacks are random, which kind of keeps you on your toes, although it does kind of screw you over sometimes with, like, some random attacks and stuff, but it's not too bad, though. Oh yeah, there's actually a scrapped attack for this fight as well, as originally Bentley was actually going to go and like side the train, like throw bombs out from the train, like from the foreground at the player, where you were, like from like, you know, he's going to like jump inside the train, he's going to throw bombs out at you, but that got scrapped due to I didn't know how to code it or make it look good, which is a thing that happened a lot in this game, is that like things that would have been cool got scrapped because I just can't really draw well. I think if I sharpen the outlines up, I probably said this before already, but if I sharpen the outlines up, it definitely would have helped the game look better, in my opinion. But although I can't really fault it too much, because I think the game does have a unique art style, which kind of helps like separate it from most other indie games, in my opinion. And anyway, we've just got the Mecha Dragon showed up. B Team got away. Actually, that's the last time we get to see like Bentley and Bruce. I kind of wish I gave those two a bit of a better like kind of like outro thing, because it's the last time we get to see Bentley and Bruce for like most of the game up until Dragon Island, and I kind of wish I had more B Team shenanigans in World 4. And it's just kind of weird how they just like stopped showing up at a point, which is kind of weird to me, at least looking back on it. Although I do think these guys get definitely a lot of screen time, as it is. I just think they could have done like a bit more of a better way of like, you know, like their like last kind of final stand before Vulcan's castle, obviously. Anyway, time for the next level, Emperor's Beach. This was the Dean level I mentioned, where like, you know, Dean would show up and you could play as him, and you'd be doing deliveries as Dean, and like he'd show up like a bit more throughout World 4. But that got scrapped and just turned to Austin doing it. I do like the delivery levels; they're pretty fun. They're definitely something I'd like to actually like develop further in like future games, hopefully, or like future Austin games. Because a little bit of a side note, Austin is not done. I will do more with the characters in future, and I will do something with the series at some point down the road. So yeah, not sure when, but I will definitely do some more stuff with him, and you know, might do another devlog thing on it if you guys like this kind of like first one. And we've just done this. Thank you. Yep. Also, another little fun fact: this level actually wasn't before like it got turned to like kind of like what it is with the post office thing. Originally, it was planned to be a level where you would end up like kind of like go through a lagoon level and then climb up like the big blue building in the middle of it, and be like, wow, we can see the factory, so let's go there. That was the original plan for that level, but that got changed and cut for like reasons, because it just didn't really feel right, and I think it's just a nice change of pace to have like a beach level focus on the beachside town instead of an actual beach, which, you know, makes it cool and stand out in my opinion. Anything else? Let's go to the shop and go buy some extra. Oh, I don't have enough cash. Thought I would. You don't need extra health to beat Austin, but I just kind of like having it because increases my chances of me not dying on the next boss, and plus it is like, you know, kind of helpful a little bit here and there, I'd argue, especially on this level. Anyway, normally when I play through the game, like when I was playtesting it, I normally actually didn't buy extra health. I just kind of like tanked it with 3 hits, because I'm like I've got to make sure like, oh, you know, people who have it with 3 hits can definitely get through it. And again, you can easily get through this game with just like 3 hits. You don't need the extra hit points, but if you are struggling, there are a nice thing to have, at least in my opinion. Anyways, that like, you know, aids you further. Anyway, this level actually has a bit of an interesting development history. So this level was the one with the bad gimmicks I was referring to earlier on, how the race levels are made thanks to this level specifically, as originally this level's gimmicks was like teleporters and like, you know, it was a mechanical themed bamboo area, but the main reasons why that got scrapped is because you have mechanical mountains and industrial heights in this world already, like 2 kind of like mechanical themed levels. And it really makes sense for it did like, it would have made for like cool backgrounds and stuff, but it's just like the main gimmick of this level kind of sucks. I was like, oh, I'm gonna go like make it into a race level, but then once that plan got scrapped, I then turned my attention towards Anton Blast's mysterious glass house level, and that's where the idea of the greenhouse came along. And originally you were actually going to be blowing up it as you went around the level, like you could enter it from like many different points throughout the level, and then you'd have to do each of these points before like accessing like the big room in the middle. Then you'd be able to like blow it all up and watch it all blow up in like the ending cutscene of this level. That got changed because it was just like felt too tedious and too long, and again it just like it didn't really feel fun because of how long it was going on for. So I'm glad I did the change, and just like how like you enter it like halfway through the level. I do wish the checkpoint was a little bit earlier, because it does feel a little bit unfairly placed, as it definitely does mean you have to do a lot of like the section before, like a lot of sections before you actually then get to go back, you get to try again. Although, and the greenhouse, so I don't know what I was going to say, glass house, the greenhouse is way too easy, like, and I don't think you'd really ever die here, like, at least in my opinion anyway. I think some players probably do die here, but I'm not really sure. Although this is like one of my favourite levels in the game personally, so I do think the final version turned out very well in my opinion. Anyway, just gonna flip the switch. Fun little fact about the switch and the switch blocks: there's actually like red versions of the switches, like they can like switch on and off, and then like you'd be flipping switches for like certain levels. You would be required to like flip switches to like unlock certain paths and then go from there. But that got changed and cut because it was just kind of tedious and annoying. Anyway, time for the, speaking of tedious and annoying, I suppose you could say, time for the next boss fight, Violet. This fight went through a few changes. Violet was always planned to like love Firita, but just a few things got changed. Mostly her attacks got changed here and there, and like where you fought her got changed. The only other thing I want to mention about the Violet boss that is actually surprising, quite interesting, at least to me personally, is that originally she actually had a healing move where she could like just like heal herself up to like not full HP, like 1 hit point. But I was making the Violet fight back when the boss rush was still pronounced like, that's just gonna get annoying. Like you nearly killed her, and it's like, oh, haha, I healed myself. It just kind of became annoying. It would if you actually like try and beat the boss rush that way. And I got very lucky there. Oh yeah, also another thing I'm gonna mention. You've probably seen this now, but most of the bosses in this game are rubbish. Like aside from like, at least in my opinion, Vulcan, Bree, and Bentley. I think Bruce is good for animation wise. The bosses are kind of rubbish. Like, I don't mean to be rude to them, but they're a little bit rubbish. I think if they all had like health bars, it probably would have relieved some of the problem. Just gonna get a bit closer to the mic. Anyway, this level, Mechanical Mountain. Aside from like the snowball bit and Mecha Dragon that I mentioned earlier on, nothing really changed in this level that much, if not anything. Like, it's a good level though. I think the only thing that did change, like originally that planned to have like kind of like raining rubbish throughout the sky, but again, John told me otherwise to not really do that. And plus, you've got the flying owls already, kind of like doing that, the seagull-like enemies. But this level is like my second favourite in the entire game, thanks to the springs and speed boosters and like, the much more harder nature of it. Makes it quite fun in my opinion. I also like the song in this one. I haven't talked much about the music because I think most of the music in this game, it works. It's definitely atmospheric. I tried making it like based off like soundtracks I like, but I didn't really know how to compose much music like until the end of the game. But I think most of them do get like the themes across pretty well. Like this one definitely does sound like something you'd hear like or like hum in your head as you're like climbing up a mountain, in my opinion. The Austin soundtrack is nothing really that's too catchy, but I do like parts of it, and I do think it's worth a bit of a listen, as the game does have like an inbuilt sound player. I do recommend you listen to some of the music, because I think the B-Team theme is really good. I like both Dragon Island World map themes. Vulcan's Castle is really good, and this is another really good one in my opinion. Definitely give them all a listen to, and maybe Grass Grows theme as well. That one's another one I really like personally. Anyway, sorry about that long ramble about the game's music. I don't know when else I'm going to fit that in, because we are kind of nearing the end of it, and like most of the songs have now been heard. And now it's time for Mecha Dragon. This is another one of those kind of like chase sections, but this one is a bit harder than Bree's. It's definitely a bit more like you've got to actually do stuff to dodge, but it's just a case of if you jump, like as soon as you see the crystal start flashing, you can actually make him shoot his beams up. So I would moan about it, but it's Ian, and like I'm gonna bring up a point right now. If you haven't played the game yet or like read some of the dialogue, because I might have gone a bit slow for certain parts, you know Ian's main characteristics is that he's kind of a loser archetype character that knows how to build machines, but his machines never work. So I think the joke of him like failing consistently is funny, and if I do make future games, I'm gonna try and lean into like a bit more like maybe like have some kind of, I don't know, destroyer with welds or something machine. Yeah, let's go with that. So kind of like, I don't know, knockoff, I don't know, menacing machine or something, and then it's just made out of duct tape or something. It's like, oh, that's disappointing. You just like take it out in one hit. Industrial Heights, right? So I'm going to bring up a point. Nothing really changed in this level as well. I do like the level name though. Industrial Heights sounds really cool, and I think this level does get the right idea of like, you know, a cloud level, which is a factory. The main inspiration for this one was, of course, like, you know, your Mario castles that are based in the sky, like whatever his face is normally has like the cloud world. Can't remember off the top of my head. And then there was like, you know, mechanical and industrial and stuff, which is quite cool. So my throat's going a bit dry. Anyway, oh yeah, another little fun fact about this level. This level's ending's a bit rough in my opinion, as originally for the Sean section, after like the very hard conveyor belt room, you're actually going to fight the core of Industrial Heights, and then like Ian would capture you. I got rid of that because the conveyor belt section was already like proving hard enough for like some playtesters. So I thought it was like, right, that's already a bit too hard. I might want to just like, you know, just have it so like, you know, it's just like, you know, you have to get through the hard conveyor belt room, and then you're at the end of the level, which is a little bit unfair. As I think like having a mini boss and the checkpoint being so far away from that point as well, it's just like it definitely would lead to players getting a bit stumped and stuck. I also think, in my opinion, Industrial Heights is definitely the hardest level in the game, in my opinion. As was true, Vulcan's Castle and Vulcan can be a bit rough on a first playthrough. They design much more for like intimidating players than actually, you know, being hard levels. And on your first one, sure, they're probably going to be hard and quite annoying, but they're fun to learn and then fun to speedrun later on because, like, you got the timer in Vulcan's Castle, and Vulcan himself is easily the best boss in the entire game. So I think it's what keeps them quite fun and, like, you know, replayable in my opinion. And it definitely makes them like two of the best levels in my opinion anyway. Oh, okay, I think there's a bit of a bug there somehow. Clearly you can tell I bug tested this well. Anyway, time for Bree. Okay, so this is a fight I have a guilty pleasure towards because it's definitely got some funny animations and like kind of like humour throughout in my opinion. In my opinion, it definitely is like it's definitely also probably the hardest B team fight in my opinion. Oh, I can't jump. Oh yeah, just revived myself. A little bit of context: you can actually revive yourself. Like if you get to a cup of coffee in time, you can be revived by it, but it's just like a case of it works, but as a revival tool. But I never really planned for that, so you can't really like jump afterwards. It's something that just kind of is there in the game that adds a bit more to it. Like it's definitely helpful if you're like trying to like I don't know speedrun the game or something. But yeah. Anyway, back to this. And this is why I like the Bree fight a lot. It's because of the animation. It's because of Bree's animation here. Like it's funny to me. It is because like you know she's like, oh, I'm gonna keep throwing bombs. Like everything I've got, then I'm out of bombs. Skip that cutscene. Also gonna kind of quickly breeze through Ian. Context of why this part is easy. Well, you just have to fight Bree, and also there's no checkpoints in like any of the boss fights. Plus, it's Ian. Like it kind of plays into the entire joke that Ian is useless. Fun little fact about that cutscene that you just saw. Originally, there actually planned to be a spring that launched you to Dragon Island instead of like, you know, you just got kind of like get exploded there in the final version. Anyway, now it is time for Lava Lake. This is not my favourite race level, as I think Dean's Casino, the bonus race level, beats this one and this one out, and I think also Simple Sprint beats this one out as well, but it's quite nice. This level was originally planned to actually like have Vulcan Jr. in it, like kind of like, you know, like the entire time, just like, you know, kind of like screwing up your progress and stuff like that, and then you get chucked into a magma mine shaft, so I got my words mixed up, and then you have to like escape rising lava. That idea did come back in Magma Mines though, so it wasn't completely scrapped, just kind of moved. And also after Lava Lake, originally you were planned to like fight Vulcan Jr. like there and then, like outside of Vulcan's Castle, which I think would have been quite cool to do, but I got rid of it because it's like the kid doesn't want to fight you. It's clearly obvious he knows he's going to lose, so it's just like, why would he boss battle you then and now? So that kind of got cut. But anyway, we've done this one. I do like the ending part of this level a lot though, like the part where you get there go really fast. I don't know why, but it's definitely quite fun to do. It's a nice simple bit for the level that's about to come, which is the best level in the entire game in my opinion. I'm going to say right now, this level is based off Hell Manor from Anton Blast. Originally it was based off of, what's it called, like, kind of like originally, since like Dean was playable along with Sean like for like most of the game, a bit of damage boosting there. Like originally, like since it would like all three of them kind of like, you know, like all four of them, like Austin, Owen, Sean, and Dean teaming up to go and beat Vulcan. Obviously, like, you know, they're going to try and beat Vulcan as like a big team or something. That got cut because Dean got cut, and I was just like, yeah. I don't know how it's going to really work with just Austin and Sean, because it might just, you know, feel a bit too short. So then I was like, I played through Hell Manor, I was like, oh, this is a really good level, and I'm like, can I use this? So yeah, Hell Manor from Anton Blast did inspire this level a lot. Hell Manor is my favourite level in Anton Blast, and again, here, you know, having this level be based off that is quite cool in my opinion, especially with the time, although the main difference between the two times is that in that game, it's actually threatening, and you can actually lose to it quite easily, but whilst in this one, as you can see, I'm like nearly halfway, like just over halfway through the level, and I've got like most of my time left still. I think the timer should have been done a bit short, although originally there was actually plans to be a hard mode in Austin where like you'd have like less health, so like less health, less healing in general, and there's actually planned to be lives as well, where like you can actually get yourself a game over, and if you got yourself a game over, it would delete your save data, it would. But that got cut because I thought like that's going to be way too unfair, although I think in hard mode, if I did actually go through that, I would have made Vulcan's castle timer a lot shorter, so like you actually had to kind of like, you know, hurry up throughout most of it. I did. And also the collectible idea that was also stolen from Hell Manor as well. It was like where they were like on like, you know, out of your way on a different pathway and stuff, which it does. This level does kind of do a bit of, obviously, as like, you know, the first 4 pips are like out of the way, but even if you are going for all the pips, like you'll still have more than enough time left quite easily. And another little fun fact, that bridge section was actually planned to be a switch that a player would hit, and then it would like do this kind of joke where like you'd expect the bridge to fall into lava from like, you know, video games and stuff. One, you probably guess what I'm referencing there. But I scrapped it as my thought was like, yeah, it's cool, it isn't stuff, but it's just like, again, it's just like I don't really know how to animate it, and plus it's a bit more funnier having the tank fail, as it does kind of stick with Ian's character in my opinion. But the original joke was like, oh yeah, you're going to flip the switch that you think the bridge is going to fall into lava, but it doesn't, so like thinking, oh, I'm going to fight the tank. But then like one of the characters, like Bruce or Ralph, says, ha, yeah, idiot, it activates the cannon in the background that shoots anything at the bridge. Then the tank stops and it's like, what? And then, you know, the rest happens. Anyway, time for the best boss fight. So this boss fight actually like kind of changed a little bit throughout development. Firstly, Vulcan wasn't actually originally planned to have like a health bar, like, because like, but thanks to the Bentley fight being as good as it was, I decided to add a health bar like here because I thought like it would make Vulcan last a bit longer and actually be a bit tougher. Secondly, there was actually planned to be like throughout the entire fight like 3 different songs for like each of the phases of the fight, like for like each phase like there'd be different songs, but I can only think of like one theme, and I thought I'd have that playing the entire time instead, because it's definitely about having one good song and then like 3 kind of meh songs, and the songs are really planned to be used for like just phase 1 it was. And also, speaking of phase 3 where I'm at now, fun little fact, originally it was going to be like some kind of like dodging section where like quick time, a bunch of like button prompts would appear quickly on the screen, and you have to like hit them all like back to back pretty fast to like deal damage to Vulcan. And another scrap mechanic from the fight was that originally you were actually going to have to like, for this boss, you're going to have to actually like actually have to like hit him, flip him on his back, then you could deal damage to him. But thanks to the health bar, that led to that being scrapped as well. And by me explaining all that, that was enough time for me to go beat Vulcan. Just going to skip this and skip the ending cutscene and kind of skip that as well. So, that is the end of the video. That is the end of my dev playthrough of Austin 1. Sorry if this was a bit short, or like I didn't cover the bonus levels and stuff. But again, I enjoyed making it, and hope you all like and subscribe. And I also hope you give Austin a go. I've left a link in the description. You're just going to have to kind of put it into your search bar because YouTube hates me. Thank you, YouTube. And I will see you guys all in the next video, which will probably be in the new year at some point. Hopefully we'll have this out like, you know, 2025, but I'm not sure. Anyway, bye!